thinking.
You have to believe in yourself.
Can you read it and understand if you were absent?
I can't say when the Wednesday's homework. We
So 5 equal parts, and then he's going to do what? So then he's going to split 5 equal parts into 10 equal parts. And then who's number 4? Okay. So we can see that Stuart traveled 48 miles or 1/10 of the way. Now we're going to look at Margaret's. And we know that Margaret traveled an 1/8. You can clearly see that the 6 pieces are bigger than the 10 pieces, right? So she cut it into 4ths first, and now she's going to cut those in half, making those 8 equal pieces. And she's going to shade an 1/8, which is equal to how many miles, Hunter? What's 480 divided by 8? What's 48 divided by 8?
Oh, sorry. 48 divided by 8. 6.
So what's 480 divided by 8? Good. So we sort of have an understanding as to how far they've traveled on this race. So we can clearly see that Nora's traveled the farthest, followed by Margaret, then followed by Stuart. Okay? All right, clear the slide and let's move on to the next slide. So now we want to think about, in terms of turning it into multiplying fractions, we want to think about how can we write 1/6 of 80 as a multiplication equation. Well, let's move on to the next slide and let's look at Olivia. Next slide, please. So Olivia bikes 100-mile race, right? If she bikes 100-mile race, how can we write a multiplication equation for that? Noah? 1 times 100. Clear the ink and let's go on to the next slide. If Olivia bikes 200-mile races, how could we write the equation for that? Caden?
2 times 2.
What?
2 times 100.
2 times 100, because she's doing 200-mile races. This is the tricky part, and I want you to pay attention to this, guys. Roman? What if Olivia bikes half of a 100-mile race? How would I write the equation for half of a 100-mile race? Clark?
100 minus 100 divided by 50.
Let's go back and look at this. We said, will you go back 2 slides, please? Okay. If Olivia bikes 100-mile race, we did 100 times 1. If she biked 200-mile races, we did 2 times 100. If she traveled if she did a half of a 100-mile race, what would be the equation? Ernie? I cannot hear you. How much did she travel? How many races did she do? Vivian?
5. Wait, if she did a half, wouldn't it be 5?
No, it would be what?
50.
Okay, let's do this one more time.
Oh my god.
If she went 100-mile race, we said that it would be 1 times 100. If she did 2 100-mile races, if Olivia biked 2 100-mile races, she did 2 times 100. If she biked half of a 100-mile race, what would the equation then be, Gage?
3 times 100?
Did she travel 3 100-mile races?
No.
No. How much did she travel?
2 divided by 100.
No. Kennedy?
100 divided by 2.
No.
I get it.
Ooh, I know it.
Hayden?
1 times 50?
No.
What? 2 times 25. 100 divided by 50?
No, think about this, okay?
I think about this.
Okay, look up here, guys. The first one, she traveled 1 100-mile race.
Oh, I
The
know.
second one, she traveled 2
Oh.
100-mile races.
You're mean.
If she did 3 100-mile races, it would be 3 100-mile races. But she traveled what?
1 half.
Half.
Yeah.
So she traveled, what goes here?
4.
Noah.
2.5. 0.
Are you guys playing with me?
No.
How much did she travel?
I don't know.
Oh, so it's 250. What? It's half of 100.
She traveled
I'm
half
confused.
of a 100 race. Okay.
9 minutes.
Guys, look up here. If you traveled 100-mile race, we would go this whole distance, right? Which is 100 miles. If you traveled 200-mile races, she would go this whole distance plus another whole distance, right?
Wow.
So it would be 2 times 100. If she did 3 races that were 100 miles long, she would do 3 times 100 because she would have to travel these 3 races, right? But if she only traveled half of the 100-mile race, what would we do with this fraction bar? Noah?
Cut in half.
Cut it in half, and she would travel half of the 100 miles, right? Didn't she travel half of the 100 miles? What is half of the 100 miles?
55.
Well, let's see. 1 over half equal times 100 over 1 is 100 over 2. What is 100 over 2? What's 100 divided by 2? Allison? She traveled 50 miles. Okay? So yes, those of you that are saying take 100 and divide it by 2, you are right, because you do have 100 divided by 2, and this right here in fractions, you do divide it to find the answer, but the equation that I'm asking you for, since we're multiplying fractions, is a half times 100. So clear the slide, and we're going back to the question. Tim, stop.
You killed my brain.
We're going back to the question here. How would we write the equation of 6 of 480? Kennedy?
6 times 480.
Thank you. So your equation, which you're writing at the bottom of your paper in your notebook, is 1/6 times 480 over 1.
It already says that on ours. Well, no, it says 1/6 of.
You're writing an equation underneath it.
480 over 1.
480 over 1. Let's think about this. If I divide 480, think about the identity property. If I divide 480 by anything by 1, what do you get?
480.
Itself. So this is technically 480, but you have to write it in a fraction form when you're multiplying fractions. So you have to put it over 1. So, when we're multiplying fractions, we multiply the top, which is 480. We multiply the bottom, which is 6. This is my answer. But I have to reduce it. What will go into 480 and 6?
206. Oh, 40.
Lily?
2.
Yes, something bigger? Noah? Will 6 go into 480?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to divide both by 6 over 6. How many 6's go into 6? 1. How many 6's go into 480? 80 over 1, and the identity property says if I divide anything by 1, it becomes itself.